Welcome to 6 Million Seeds. I'm Meryl Fury.
And I'm Carrie Bruno. We are healthcare professionals and co-creators of this podcast. This episode is brought to you by potatoes.
I heard Dr. Kim Williams speak. He explained what a vegetarian diet was, what a vegan diet was, what a plant-based whole food diet was, and he had all the scientific data about it. He did all this research for his own health, his own family's health, and his own to lower his cholesterol. I thought if it helps prevent cancer, heart disease, high blood pressure, cholesterol, all those things that I had relatives that were taking medications for and were concerned about, I thought, okay, this is what I need to do. And I had no idea what it was, how to do it. That's kind of started like in my brain the moment.
This week on 6 Million Seeds, we had the pleasure of having Janet Pearson on with us. Janet was actually a founding board member to Plant-Based Nutrition Movement with the goal of bringing her experience to the southwest suburbs of Chicago, where she currently resides and raised a family. Janet has completed multiple certifications and cooking courses from some of the well-known leaders in the whole food plant-based movement. Also, she's part of the Terra Health Coaching team and was involved with a pilot summer enrichment program for kindergarten through 7th grade children this summer. Janet is passionate about her work and has a wealth of knowledge, recipes, and tips to make a whole food plant-based way of eating doable in daily life. In fact, in today's episode, she shares everything you'd ever want to know about, you guessed it, potatoes. All right, welcome to 6 Million Seeds. And today we have the pleasure of having Janet Pearson as our guest.
Thank you so much for inviting me today.
We're happy to have you. So let's jump right in. So getting started, to kind of tell us a little bit about your background and maybe how you ate growing up.
Well, if anyone in the audience has watched the movie, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, and laughed at that, that's how I grew up, only Italian family. My mom is the youngest of 9. And so that meant all her siblings were older and had kids by the time I was born, most of them. And my dad was the youngest of 7. And my mom is Italian, 100%. Her parents are from Italy, southern Italy. So they were farmers and loved to cook. So that's in my genes. And my dad's family was parents are from Yugoslavia, were Croatian, and also Polish. So that's my background. Big family, lots of cousins. We get together for the holidays, and it's all centered around food.
Yeah, nice.
So you started out, okay, this is total, forgive me, stereotype I'm going to make, because I'm not Italian nor Croatian nor Polish. So I'm just going to guess at this. You said your family liked to cook, so I'm guessing it was sort of a meat-centric, animal proteins and cheeses and stuff like that you were eating when you were growing up?
Primarily, the dinner plate usually had meat and a potato and a vegetable. We almost always had a small salad to start the meal or to finish the meal. And then on the weekends, we would have a dessert. Special occasions, we would have a buffet of several of each of those, and everybody would bring something. So since we're a big family, everybody was local in Chicago. So almost every week there was someone celebrating a birthday or a holiday. So we had a lot of get-togethers with family, and we cooked together. And there was a friendly competition against, all the aunts and the cousins of who had the better potato salad, who had the better Easter bread, who had the better lasagna. Yeah. So it was, always, a competition and sharing recipes and teaching each other all the tips and tricks.
Yeah.
And then what happened as you were growing up? At some point you had a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happened there? How did that change?
Well, I was, my dad and all of his siblings, unfortunately, had diagnosis of various kinds of cancer. And I think I was probably in grade school when when I had to go to my first funeral. Unfortunately, his sister, that one of his youngest sisters, she died of lung cancer, I want to say, when she was in her mid 40s. And that was shocking as, a young child. And then gradually, as they all got older, they all developed some type of different cancers. And it was horrible. And my dad was diagnosed in his early 50s and he passed away at 56 of bladder cancer. So that when he was at the University of Chicago, I was in my late 20s during this period, mid 20s, and I just was searching. We didn't have internet then. We didn't have phones. We didn't have personal computers. I didn't know that diet could have maybe helped him in some way, extend his life and other people around us. So that was, kind of started my journey on, what does nutrition environment have to do with these, the cancer genes that I most likely have. And I wanted to do anything I could to prevent it. I never smoked. I, didn't drink a whole lot. I mean, I drink occasionally, socially, but not a heavy drinker. Tried to not breathe secondhand smoke when it was around everywhere, even in offices and restaurants back then. So I tried to keep my environment healthy, but the nutrition part of it was always confusing.
Mhm.
Got it.
So then how did that transition go? Did you first start, did you cut out things as you went, or did you go plant-based kind of all at once?
I would say during the 80s, my mom started with a prevention magazine subscription. And then
Yeah.
through that, she bought a Dr. John McDougall book, one of his first books in the 80s. And she would read through it and she would say, hey, we're not supposed to eat bacon. We're not, why not? We eat it every week or a few times a week. And she would say, well, even if we do, we need to have tomatoes with it because the vitamin C counteracts the bacon. I don't know where she was getting this information, but she would give us. And then, so I'm like, I don't need bacon. Oh, we can't put pepperoni on our pizza anymore. That's not good either. It causes cancer. Oh my gosh, okay, no pepperoni. We can't have sausage anymore. That also is, one of the lists of cancer causing foods. So we eliminated that. So gradually we eliminated all those things. And once I got married, I was learning how to cook. And from my mom, I'd be on the phone. How do you make your spaghetti sauce? How do you make your lasagna? How do you make your chili? So she would always put some oil in the pan, first thing, oil in the pan. Then you put your meat, your ground meat and ground turkey started to be popular. So I kind of had a phase where I went into that and stopped the sausage and ground meat. And then gradually went into what I thought a healthier American diet was with baked chicken and salmon and vegetables, salad. And I thought it was a healthy meal.
Mm-hmm.
So
I never knew what vegan or vegetarian even was at that point.
Yeah.
So at what point did you come to understand what vegan and vegetarian was? Or was it just like, who cares about the label? I just eat this way.
My turning point was one day, summer day, August, going to Veggie Fest in Lisle. I went for a different purpose to check out the rental equipment because I was in the tent business at the time and it was an event. So I would go to the events, check them out, and they were a customer. So I went there and Dr. Kim Williams was the keynote speaker. And when I read the bio of the keynote speakers, I thought to myself, well, I was expecting to see yoga people, meditation people, and vegan weird food that I have no idea what it is, and kids dressed up in veggie costumes, because that was the joke of the office. Oh, you're going to go to the veggie parade and all the kids are going to have a veggie costume on. And, you know, they were teasing me basically that I was going to the veggie fest. And I dragged my husband and my son with, and they said, we're not going. And I said, yes, you are. We're going together. And I heard Dr. Kim Williams speak, his keynote speech for 1 hour, complete, all the scientific data. He explained what a vegetarian diet was, what a vegan diet was, what an unhealthy vegan diet was, what a plant-based whole food diet was, what a salt, oil, sugar-free plant-based diet was. And he had all the scientific data about it. And I thought, okay, he's the head cardiologist at Rush. He's a lot smarter than I am. He did all this research for his own health, his own family's health, and his own to lower his cholesterol. I thought if it helps prevent cancer, heart disease, high blood pressure, cholesterol, all those things that I had relatives that were taking medications for and were concerned about, I thought, okay, this is what I need to do. And I had no idea what it was, how to do it. That's kind of started like in my brain the moment. And I thought, okay, I have to find some people doing this. And on Facebook, I found a good friend of mine who happened to relocate to Australia. And we reconnected on Facebook, and she was doing a raw till 4 diet. And I, after I heard Dr. Kim Williams, I thought, okay, that's the only one I know doing anything close to this. And I start communicating with her. What are you doing? What's a raw till 4 diet, and why are you doing it? And she told me that she was a breast cancer survivor, and it's the best diet to prevent the reoccurrence and to prevent breast cancer. And she starts sending me videos, Dr. Michael Greger and McDougall and Esselstyn and Ornish, all of these videos that she collected and she sends to people when they ask, and start watching them. And I was just amazed at all of the news that all this information. And it was overwhelming on one hand, but on the other hand, it was great to have a mentor. And even though she was on the opposite side of the world, she's from Illinois originally. We knew each other here locally. And when she relocated, we would, go back and forth. She would gradually send me new information and I would watch it and then I'd ask her questions and then she'd send me recipes. Then I'd try them. And I would ask her really stupid things like, what's quinoa? How do you pronounce it? I didn't know how to say it. How do you make your rice? How do you make beans? I mean, I didn't make any of that.
Right.
So it was a slow process.
Right. So tell me, just because you mentioned raw till 4, what is that exactly?
That is a raw food diet, breakfast and lunch, and any snacks through 4 o'clock, and then a cooked dinner.
Okay.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
Although it makes sense,
Yeah.
especially
So-
for cancer survivors.
And I thought at first, what would I eat? What would that be? What would they look like for me? I had no clue. I had to really okay, well, what do you eat? Fruits. Oh, that's raw. Oh, lunch, a salad with a lot of raw vegetables. Oh, okay, that makes sense. I mean, I didn't make the connection of raw food, cooked food, what the difference was, what the benefits were. So it was definitely an education that I had. And this was probably, about 9 years ago, I would have to say.
Okay, nice.
So you've been whole food plant-based now, like almost completely for how long?
Probably since 2016, I would say. It took me a while to figure out the food, how to cook it, how to shop it. And now I would stand in the produce section, like I'm sure other people watching this, I've had cousins and friends say, I stand in the produce line and I'm overwhelmed. I go to Whole Foods, there's too much to look at. I'm like on overload. I don't know. So then I walk out because I don't know what to get. And I was the same way. All these things that I didn't really know what to do with. Some of them I did, onions, garlic, peppers, the basics, potatoes. But other things, I never made eggplant before. I never made butternut squash. I made zucchini because we grew it in the yard, but butternut squash, spaghetti squash, acorn squash, all these interesting fruits and vegetables that were in the produce section of every grocery store were sort of new and foreign to me.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's that way for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. You go into the produce section, it's like, okay, I know apples, oranges, bananas. Okay, pears are a little exotic. Strawberries for summertime, and then there's certain of the savory and so tomatoes and peppers and spinach and corn. And that almost sums it up for a lot of people,
Yeah.
potatoes. Oh,
Absolutely.
potatoes.
Yeah. Imagine it can be overwhelming for people who don't have that much exposure to fruits and vegetables, but that is one of the fun parts too, is that you can go to the store and say, okay, well, this week I'm going to try this ingredient. It doesn't necessarily have to be overwhelming and you don't have to try a bunch of things, new things all at once, but there's so much variety.
If we keep it to the basics and just try one new thing
Yeah.
each
Yeah.
week,
Eventually we'll grow.
and you could
Yeah.
make it many different ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I recommend to people too. Just try one new thing. Get a small amount of one new
Mhm.
thing and try that. I do that almost every time I go to the grocery store. I used to do it absolutely every time, but now I've pretty much run through the whole produce department. So I just do it every now and then now. So question for you. We were talking about buying one ingredient and testing it out and how people like potatoes. I understand you have some potato information for us.
I do. When I did the research and have listened to Dr. John McDougall has a great program that he put together on potatoes. If anyone's interested, they could find that on his on YouTube channel. But it's amazing the history of the potato, and it's one of the top ingredients worldwide that people eat. It's a staple. And it's a staple in the American diet, but unfortunately, it's a staple in the form of French fries.
Yeah.
And it's the one of the forms. French fries with ketchup are considered a vegetable, one of the few that most American kids and adults eat regularly. Unfortunately, the fries are filled with salt and oil and probably sugar and animal products in the seasoning. So all of that is not necessary. So I've learned to master the potato, and I think I'm kicking off from this podcast. I'm going to kick off a 21-day challenge for a potato, different recipe of a potato. I'm going to do it. I'll post it on my Facebook group and challenge people to join along with me to seek out a potato recipe. You could eat potatoes for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You could
Yeah,
eat
you
them
can.
for a side. You could eat them as a meal base. You can eat them as a soup. You can eat them as a stew. You can eat them as a snack. They're pretty much so versatile.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about them. I learned that there's over 7,000 varieties of potatoes.
Yeah.
When we go to the produce section, it's kind of confusing which ones to get: the red, the yellow, the russets, the little ones, the big ones, the fingerlings. There's so many choices. Then there's the sweet potatoes. There's the orange ones, the white
And
ones, the Hannah yams, the
Yeah.
Japanese potatoes,
That's right. There's even
So-
blue potatoes,
Yeah.
right?
And purple.
blue and the purple. Oh, I wanted to say, before my plant-based journey, I only really made sweet potatoes, and I only bought them Thanksgiving dinner.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. And I used to make them. I had a delicious, almost like a dessert souffle There was butter, cream, eggs. All of this was in the sweet potato. Now, why do you need that? Now I know you don't, but it was all in this recipe, my favorite recipe. Relatives made it and topped it with marshmallows
Mhm.
and sugar. You don't need any of that. They're perfectly fine roasted, and they caramelize. They're delicious by themselves, and they could be blended. They could be put in a soup. They could be put on a salad. They could be air fried, made crispy into croutons. So there's so many different ways you could use the sweet potato, not saving it just for Thanksgiving, because there's a lot of nutrients in that.
Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, another one good for any meal of the day.
exactly.
I love sweet potatoes for breakfast, lunch, yes, salad, yep, soup, yep, dinner,
Snack.
yep, snap, all of it.
Right. And they're very versatile and they're inexpensive. You can get a bag for,
Yeah.
under $5, like $3, $4, $5 for a 2 or 3 pound bag, sometimes a 5-pound bag, or you could buy them by themselves. And when I buy them by themselves, I try to buy the biggest, roundest one, because then instead of the smaller ones, because there's more potato to it. And then yesterday I was shopping and I bought a bag of just, red potatoes, medium size. I bought a bag of russet potatoes, also a small to medium size. Usually there's different sizes in the bag. And then one of my favorite potatoes are the yellow ones, which are called golden Yukon golds. And they seem to be creamier inside. So those are the creamiest. The red ones are the next creamiest, and the russets are more fluffy and flaky when you bake them. And each of them have different purposes. Some work better when you bake them and mash them. Some work better when you cook them and steam them. So I will be, I think it would be fun just to experiment with it and have other people do it, come along with, and just explore the potato.
Nice.
I remember when I was growing up. Now, Janet and I are more contemporaries. There weren't all these kinds of potatoes. We had like white potatoes, russet potatoes, sweet potatoes.
Yeah.
I think that was it. I don't know. Do you remember any other varieties? Now there's, so many.
I think I want to say my mom usually had just a regular white potato. I don't really remember the difference of a red potato, a white potato. One of the favorite meals, other than potato salad, that we had regularly, especially on Fridays, was a potato salad that my Polish grandmother that was her specialty, potatoes. And she made this potato dish with boiled potatoes, onions, just thinly sliced onions, and vinegar, basically a vinegar sprinkled on. And she probably added sugar to the vinegar and made a dressing with it. But I prefer not to add any sugar or sweetener to the vinegar. Sometimes I use flavored vinegars, and I sprinkle it on the warm potatoes. When they're nice and moist, they absorb it. And then when we made a meal out of it, we used to add shrimp to it. And that was our Friday meal, especially during Lent. But now I don't eat shrimp or seafood or any other type of animal product or anything from the ocean. So instead we add green beans, or we'll add chickpeas, or we'll add kidney beans, or another vegetable, just to make it a little more colorful. Maybe some peppers cut up, red peppers if we have them, zucchini, whatever we have, really. It's so flexible. And it's just basically a vinegar dressing. You could add mustard to it. You could add a seasoning to it, whatever your favorite is. And it's such an easy type of potato salad.
Okay, so one thing that we try to capture in the discussion is transitioning to kids and kind of talking about how to make this lifestyle work for them or make it easy for parents to help, improve their children's diet. So I understand you have kids. Were they old enough at that point where when you transitioned that they were not eating plant-based, or did you have to kind of incorporate that into their diet as well?
Yes, they were teenagers, high school age, and they were used to eating the chicken and the salmon and the vegetables and the salad. We tried to eat vegetables at every meal and fruits for snacks and minimize the sweet cookies and things that we had or that were available, yeah, everywhere. And I started with chili, making chili with just beans and no ground meat or no sausage, because I put both in my chili before. So instead of the two types of meat, I decided to put three different colors of beans: black beans, kidney beans, and pinto beans, to make it look like it was a variety. And they didn't really notice the difference. It tasted the same. They loved it. So
Wow.
it was like, wow, that's a win. Chili is a good one on the list. And then the next thing we pretty much had regularly is spaghetti or masticcioli. And of course, that was always made with sausage or meatballs. And instead of that, I researched recipes and I decided to just do marinara sauces without oil, with onions and zucchini and sometimes eggplant, sometimes mushrooms, based on who was eating and who liked mushrooms and who didn't. If they didn't like mushrooms, I would put them in the food processor and they almost look like ground meat when you do that.
Mhm.
And they have the texture of ground meat. So you really can't even tell that you're eating mushrooms, but it gives it a lot of flavor. And it's really a great way to make two easy meals, chili and masticholi or spaghetti, that everyone loves.
Yeah, definitely.
So if any of our listeners are wanting to improve their diet or, help improve their children's diet and what they eat, what would be one tip you would suggest for them?
It's hard to put it all in one, but I would say try to add a fruit or a vegetable in the whole form each day or each week, whenever you're grocery shopping. Add something that more of what they like. Maybe instead of one apple, try different colors of apples and find out what they like best, and then buy more of that. So apples and peanut butter are a delicious snack instead of candy or, a candy bar or something sugary.
Mhm.
So find out those type of recipes that are simple. Just cut. You can't get faster than fast food is a fruit. Peel it and eat it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so Janet, we know you're pretty creative in the kitchen based on everything that you've been telling us about potatoes and everything else I know about you personally. I see your stuff posted on Facebook all the time, all of
Yeah.
these dishes you're making. Do you have a recipe you'd like to share with our guests today?
I do. And
I knew we could count on you.
I put this together in a bowl. So we have an onion, we have two types of potatoes, and we have a yellow zucchini. And this is a zucchini I picked from my garden. And it's a new recipe that I just tried, and I've made it several times in the last week or last month. And since zucchini and potatoes and onions go together, and it's basically slicing them thin with a cutting board raw. You slice everything, and it's almost a scallop potato. So you get your skillet, you put a little vegetable broth at the bottom instead of oil. No butter or oil needed. Just put a little vegetable broth, layer of thinly sliced potatoes, and they don't have to be really thin. I would say a 1/4 inch. Cut them and layer them. Then put a layer of sliced onions. Then you could sprinkle some fresh garlic or garlic spice on there, and then you could put peppers. I have some peppers from my garden, different colors of peppers. If you like spice or mild, whatever type of peppers and flavors you like, there's all of these are different ones that I've pulled from my garden today. And you could cut those smaller, put those in a layer, and then you put the zucchini sliced thin in round slices or long slices. It doesn't really matter. If you have you could put these in a casserole dish, or you could put them in a skillet based on, what your favorite way to cook is. It's a very flexible recipe. So you're making a scallop potato recipe, layered dish, and it could be as about 2 inches thick with different layers. So the basics are potatoes, onions, and zucchini. And then you could add whatever else you like in it. And you could add different spices too. You could have a Mexican flair to it with a Mexican spice combination. You could have Italian, which is a nice spice. You could have Greek, you could have a curry. It's pretty versatile. Whatever your traditional favorite spice group is from your culture that your kids like or that you like, you could put salsa on it if you want. It really doesn't matter. And then you just put the cover on it, make sure there's enough water. The moisture from all the vegetables will keep it moist. And you cook it for about 20-25 minutes until it's done through. For the people that like nutritional yeast, you could add nutritional yeast as a topping or even layered in between to give it more of a cheesy flavor. And it's delicious.
Nice. And you're baking it in the oven.
You could either bake it in the oven or put it in a skillet on the stove, a stovetop.
Okay, nice. If it goes in the oven, you said about 20-25 minutes at 350, 375. What do you put it on?
Probably, I haven't made it personally in the oven.
Okay.
I've made it in the skillet on the stove. So it takes with a cover. It's more like a steamed type potato, but not boiled because there's not that much moisture in it. So in the oven, probably 25-30 minutes at 350 or even 400.
Okay.
And I would cover it with parchment paper or foil combination.
Nice. Yeah, sounds good.
Very simple, but I'm sure it tastes great. It sounds really good.
Yeah, it does. That with a nice like green salad, you'd have all your colors right there.
Yeah.
Really nice.
You could add frozen spinach in or kale if you had it right into the layers too, if if you wanted to add that, or you could add beans. It's pretty flexible, but it's easy.
Sounds good. Really good. Yeah, that's nice. Thank you. Okay, well, that about wraps it up for us. Is there anything else you'd like to tell our audience before we sign off?
Yes, I would say you're never too young, you're never too old to start eating healthier. And the best time is to do it now, to start adding something new to your diet, whether you have a child or a grandchild that's 6 months old or a year old, they could eat sweet potatoes or mashed potatoes made in a healthier way. Whether you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 89, like my mom, you could eat healthier, or you could just start this way of eating at any age. It's never too late.
Hello, my lovelies. This is Meryl.
And this is Carrie. And we're here to invite you to an amazing event that we're planning. It is the 6 Million Seeds 2022 Child Nutrition Summit. And we're kicking off a revolutionary decade in child nutrition.
It is free, it is live, and it's online coming up December 3rd through the 6th for 2 sessions per day. We have some great speakers lined up. We have Dr. Yami, Dr. Columbus Batiste, and Dr. Joel Furman, all medical doctors who are experts in the field of child health and nutrition.
And we even have some fun cooking demos planned. They will be by Evelise Capot and Dilip Barman and his daughter Anu.
So like I said, it's free, and we encourage you to take advantage of the VIP upgrade so that you can have actual conversations with our presenters. You can ask your questions, you can get your questions answered, as well as you'll get recordings to all the sessions and all of the question and answer part. Along with that, you'll get a free goodie bag full of stuff we are packing chock full just for you.
Yeah, so go ahead and the link is below and definitely click it and sign up now. And we'll looking forward to seeing you there.
Okay, bye-bye. 6 Million Seeds is made possible by the generosity of Bruno Chiropractic, Acme Construction Metals, EXP Realty, and Deck It Out Builders. We thank you for your support.